Stephen Mandel and David Tepper, they got it right. Why do you think that is?
I think because each one of them did two things very, very well. They both stuck to the knitting as to what they know quite well. The overlap between their portfolios is actually extremely small. And when we look at the names that you would have seen with someone like a Stephen Mandel, a Priceline.com, they get involved, they buy up, they buy Kayak. They are very much a business that is in play. Stephen Mandel's background was as an ex-Tiger Cub. So that's a guy who digs deep into his positions. And before that at Goldman Sachs, as a retail analyst. So you've got the Priceline.com position. You've got the Cognizant Technologies, which is sort of a bit of a cloud play on that. And he's also willing to go into Dollar General. And one of the things that you will see that he does is move his sector exposures around actually quite actively. He was playing just as he played...
Okay, sectors, but not asset classes.
But not asset classes, exactly right. And he was playing a consumer turnaround. He was playing a consumer turnaround. He's playing a cloud theme. He's gotten completely or broadly out of the Kinder Morgan and and he had some commodity component to it that he's drawn right down again. And now he's back and active in the names that have some element of complexity to them. Not least of which was Priceline, which, by the way, a lot of people took to be completely dead as the name your own price model died. Well, they moved away from that. They bought the they bought the Kayak team. Overall, their entire portfolio looks very, very different than you would see in the typical hedge fund and in the typical guy. And by the way, his positions, 5-6% names, are not uncommon for him to take a 6% position. This is double or triple what you might see, for example, at a UBS style of a hedge fund where you don't want to take that risk.
If you have this kind of hedge fund, you're allowed to have massive concentrations in a smaller amount of names?
Absolutely. And he would be looking at some 50-odd names maximum, of which a quarter may be relatively smaller. If you look at his top 20 names, I would bet you they would account for, when we did a study of this years ago, they would probably account for 80% of his profits and 60% of his assets in the top 20, 30 names.
You would know as well as anybody, Fabio, how predictive are results like these for next year's performance?
Except in the case of someone like him, which has had such a long run, and when we look at Appaloosa in a minute.
I mean, Appaloosa's had the best long-term track record, I think, of any hedge fund out there.
Absolutely, and you know what? They went every dollar long banks in 2009 made 135%. You're not going to get that at any, the typical manager, the typical long-only manager. Let's go overweight banks from 5% in the index to 7%. Ooh, let's go crazy. These guys are talking multiples of that, and that's what we saw in both of these managers, which is not to say
like taking
reckless.
the stack of chips on the poker table and pushing them into the center.
But I think that that creates a gambling analogy, which I think in a lot of these cases what they're doing is they do a heck of a lot more work. There was a study done, and this is, I hate to get incredibly academic. There was a study done.
Nerd out. We're the
Nerd
right
out, exactly. A guy studied when your college roommate was on the board of a company, and you were running an investment firm, and you had a really good feeling about how things were going at his business without inside information. How much did people overweight it? And on the long only side, it was about 25 basis points. So at the end of the day, people are just trained not to vary from the index weights. And having a willingness, what is a portfolio that consists of Cognizant Technology, Ralph Lauren, and Priceline? What is your theme here? My theme is what goes up and what looks like it's going to make me money. And that, I think, would be the answer that you get from Steve Mandel.